Hello, welcome to Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, After the Bell. I've clocked the game, so it's time to take a look and see how the experience was as a whole. If you haven't watched Before the Bell, Shadow of Mordor, I highly suggest you go back and watch that first, as I'm going to skim over some points in this After the Bell video, and it's just going to give you a more rounded view and idea of what this game is actually about. Pretty much everything that I mentioned in Before the Bell still stands. It shamelessly rips off Assassin's Creed and Batman, but in terms of the gameplay, you cannot fault it. It's very intuitive, it's slick, and you can pick up and play it and start lopping off orcs' heads in no time. The voice acting and the musical score is spot on, it looks great, and the sheer amount of options that you have to take down the Dark Lord's army is brilliant. However, the game simply doesn't twist your arm to make you use all of these options. Pretty much every captain or war chief that you come across can be killed with little or no preparation, and that means that their strengths and weaknesses become irrelevant. This is in stark contrast to earlier on in the game, when you're very cautious of these seemingly difficult mini bosses, but as soon as you grow in confidence and a bit of stature, you realise you're able just to cut them down. You are given the option to dominate orcs at some point, so it adds an interesting twist to how you take on the captains and war chiefs. Do you kill them or do you dominate them and have them work on your side? Which means you can pit them against other captains, or if they're a bodyguard of a war chief, they can betray them. So again, plenty of options here at your disposal. But Shadow of Mordor doesn't force you to mix things up. Why would you go through all the hassle of dominating a captain, starting a riot, starting a ruckus, when you can go route one and wipe them out? And this has a knock-on effect to all parts of the game. The side quests become irrelevant. Well, first of all, the side quests are not side quests at all. They're glorified challenges. There's no mini story involved in these like you're getting in a game, say like Skyrim. It's just kill 50 orcs or stealth kill 80 orcs without being seen, or headshot 10 orcs in a set time limit. You know, you get the picture. And the fact that you don't actually need to upgrade your ranger to power through and get to the end of the main campaign makes these completely irrelevant. These challenges, there's no narrative to sink your teeth into. So why would you bother? To what, earn 50 coins? Behave. It's a bad bit of structure, and there's just no importance to these quests at all. And I played a handful of them and then completely left them alone. Overall, Shadow of Mordor for me is a massive missed opportunity. The Nemesis system is there to be used, abused, and experimented with. But there's no drive to do this. You'll soon be powering through the world, cutting things down left, right, and centre in your search for the end. The story is okay, I guess. I'm not a fan of Lord of the Rings, as I've mentioned in Before the Bell, so there's probably going to be people that have a far different opinion than I do, whether it's right by the franchise and right by the lore. But for me, it was okay. But the main campaign structure is bloody terrible, and it gets worse as the game goes on. There's a handful of sort of main bosses in the game, and the first one you encounter is easily the most interesting. And the bosses just get easier as they go on. And it's bizarre. It's a complete opposite way of doing things in terms of designing your video game and how it reaches this climax. The game isn't bad though. Far from it. But I just find myself so frustrated at Shadow of Mordor trying to play it safe. It lays all these interesting tools out on the table that you can make use of, but it makes it too obvious that just using one tactic's going to work. So I imagine that your experience of this game is going to come down to how you actually play it. If you're happy to ignore the easy route, then you can certainly have a lot of fun with Shadow of Mordor. And hand on heart, I had great moments in this game, I really did. Nonetheless, you shouldn't have to force yourself to take the hard road with a game that has so many variables, so many avenues for you to explore, so many different ways of approaching things. Mixing things up should be the only option for you to succeed in Shadow of Mordor, and it's not the case. I'm ready to give Shadow of Mordor its official grading, so here we go. Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor's official After the Bell grading is bronze. So disappointing that Shadow of Mordor moves down from a silver to a bronze, but that's the fact of life of playing video games. Sometimes they start off with promise and set high expectations, but then by the end you feel a little bit deflated and the game fizzled out, and that's what happened with Shadow of Mordor here. It certainly had me on the hook to start with, but then as I was getting towards the final third of the game, it really did slow down, and I was just using route 1, and that got me through the game, and that's disappointing because in my view that's a flaw in the design of the game. You should, with all these options there, you should be forced to mix your game up, and you're not forced to mix your game up, which is disappointing. But what you got to remember, it's only disappointing. It's not a disaster, this game. It's still a bronze, it's still recommended, and I still think you should go out and play it. It's a great sort of action game, and the combat's brilliant. I love the voice work, I'll keep saying that, and I love the soundtrack. So get out there and buy it, but just don't expect the world, because it's not going to deliver the world for you, unfortunately. Just a heads up for what I'm going to be playing over the next few weeks. So I've purchased Murdered Soul Suspect on PS4 for £15 from Zavi, so that was a bargain. That was an impulse buy. I saw it and bought it, so that's now going to be the next project I'll be working on. That will push back Sunset Overdrive, which I was planning to get this Friday. That will now be purchased once Murdered Soul Suspect is finished, and I've traded it in for that, so I'll get a little bit of cash back there. Got Assassin's Creed Unity that is on pre-order, so that'll be the tail end of those sort of free games that I'll be playing through, but they'll all come separately. I'll only do one once I finish the other, so they'll all come in their own sort of little sections. But after Assassin's Creed Unity, I don't know what I'll be getting after that, so it'll be interesting to see what I pick and see what I can find, and hope to bring you some more videos soon. So again, thanks very much for your time, and ta-da.